Qui Gon Jinn's discovery of Anakin Skywalker on Tatooine is the inciting incident for the entire Star Wars saga. From the moment Qui Gon meets Anakin, he is convinced the boy is the chosen one, a being prophesized to bring balance to the Force. Despite opposition from the Jedi Council, Qui Gon is unwavering in this belief, even going so far to defy their orders and ensure Anakin is freed and brought to Coruscant. In hindsight, Qui Gon's insistence of Anakin's training appears to be a fatal decision to the Jedi Order. Anakin's emotional attachment to his mother, his fear of loss, and innate power made him a dangerous candidate for Jedi training. The Jedi Council's skepticism about training him proved correct, as Anakin's inability to reconcile his emotions with the Jedi Code ultimately led to his turn to the dark side and destruction of the Jedi Order. So this begs the question, is Star Wars Qui Gon Jinn's fault? If Qui Gon left Anakin on Tatooine, would the Sith have risen to power? However, Qui Gon was not so reckless. Unlike the Jedi Order, which had grown rigid and detached, Qui Gon believed in the living Force and the necessity of empathy and intuition, living in the present rather than worrying about the future. He recognized Anakin's potential, but also understood the boy's need for guidance and mentorship. He believed he was the chosen one, and thought he would need to be trained as a Jedi to fulfill this. But the prophecy of the chosen one never said anything about being a Jedi. Qui Gon would have been the perfect role model and mentor for Anakin. Destined to be the father figure Anakin not only never had, but desperately needed. A role that would be later filled by the manipulative Palpatine after Qui Gon's death. The Duel of the Fates in The Phantom Menace is one of the most significant moments in the Star Wars saga because it's a metaphor for Anakin's destiny. The battle between Qui Gon, Obi-Wan and Darth Maul represents the fate of Anakin Skywalker and by extension the galaxy. If Qui Gon had triumphed over Maul and survived, he would have been able to train Anakin himself, guiding him with the patience and understanding that Obi-Wan lacked. Qui Gon's philosophy of the living Force and willingness to challenge the Jedi Council's dogma might have given Anakin the emotional support he needed to reconcile his fears and attachments. Instead, Qui Gon's death left Anakin to the care of Obi-Wan, who, while a loyal and skilled Jedi, was unprepared to be a mentor to someone as complex as Anakin. Where Qui Gon might have seen and addressed Anakin's growing fears and desires, Obi-Wan resorted to reminders of the rigid Jedi Code. This failure to connect with Anakin on a deeper emotional level left a void that Palpatine eagerly filled after Qui Gon's death, and used this to manipulate Anakin slowly to his side for over 10 years. Qui Gon would have discovered Anakin's relationship to Padme, and I believe he would have been okay with it, since he would have trained Anakin to control his fear and not the other way around. Whereas in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, Obi-Wan admitted to Padme that he knew of her and Anakin's relationship, but always kept it secret, knowing that Anakin's fear could be used against him. Unlike the Jedi Council, Qui Gon did not dismiss Anakin's attachments as mere distractions. He understood the importance of personal relationships and would likely have encouraged Anakin to navigate his emotions rather than suppress them entirely. In contrast, the Jedi Order's insistence on detachment only deepened Anakin's insecurities and drove him closer to Palpatine, who always validated Anakin's emotions, labeling them as human, whilst exploiting his fears, and promised him the power to save his loved ones. How could Anakin turn down the man Palpatine, who always understood him, when the Jedi Council never did? Maybe if there was another Qui Gon. After Qui Gon's death, Palpatine stepped into the role of mentor and father figure, manipulating Anakin over the course of a decade. Palpatine's influence filled the emotional void left by Qui Gon, but instead of guiding Anakin towards balance, he nurtured his darkest impulses. It's no coincidence that Anakin's descent into the dark side was driven by his desire to save Padme, a fear that Palpatine had stroked for many years. If Qui Gon Jinn had survived the Duel of the Fates, the Star Wars story would have taken a very different course. Qui Gon's mentorship could have provided Anakin with the emotional stability and understanding he needed, preventing his eventual fall to the dark side. Qui Gon would have challenged the Jedi Council's rules of attachments and emotion, allowing Anakin to form healthier relationships and attachments. With Qui Gon as his master, Anakin would have learned to balance his emotions with his responsibilities. But also, since Qui Gon was in the position of father figure in Anakin's life, Palpatine wouldn't have been able to get as close to the boy and plant the seeds of manipulation, and if he did, Qui Gon no doubt would have sensed it. But this takes us to another argument. Did Qui Gon have to die? Which extends to the question, did Anakin have to fall to the dark side? Did he have to purge the Jedi and then later on betray Palpatine to defeat the Sith in order to complete his role as the Chosen One? With his redemption, he had destroyed both the dogmatic Jedi and evil Sith, redeemed by a son who was a representation of what a Jedi should be, one who strove to live in the light but could accept his emotions and form healthy attachments without fear. But of course, don't forget that Palpatine somehow returned and Luke tried to kill his nephew, but we'll ignore that for now. Thanks for watching, check out my other videos, and may the Force be with you.